think if you've got the flexibility to, yes.
Yeah.
If you want to get straight out there, fair enough. There's plenty of people in my office who haven't done their masters, but I'm really glad that I did personally.
Welcome to the Ground Investigation Podcast, a show featuring interviews and insights from leaders in the geotechnical and geo-environmental business world. Join host Michael Taylor as he discusses the ups and downs of running a business in the GI industry, getting geological experts to share their learnings and lessons, as well as their plans for the future, highlighting what they think will improve the ground investigation industry moving forward. Now, here is your host, Michael Taylor.
Welcome, Saskia, to the Ground Investigation Podcast. How's it going?
It's going well, thank you very much.
Excellent. Obviously, I've done a few of these so far. One of the kind of initial questions I ask is what kind of got you into geology in the first place? I noticed you've worked with some of the etches collection. We can get onto that in a moment, but I just wonder if you could just answer that question to kick us off.
So to start with, I never intended to do geology at all. I went off to college doing physics, chemistry and maths, and for some reason, I can't actually even remember what it was now, but they asked me to take an extra option as a softer subject, said with inverted commas. So I thought I'd found the perfect route of geology, which was a science, but apparently a to them softer one. And I ended up enjoying that more than anything else I was doing at the time. So didn't really find it till college. I'd grown up along the Jurassic coast, so I've always enjoyed rocks, seeing the fossils, going on holiday, pointing out interesting things, but I'd never really considered it as an actual option. I didn't know you could make a job out of it, certainly. So yeah, I found it at college, enjoyed it, slowly ignored everything else, and then went on off to university to study it. So yeah, I started with Birkbeck, University of London, part-time distance learning, because I was actually working at the time. And then I realised I actually wanted to get it done a lot quicker, transferred to University of Portsmouth, and on we went from there, really.
That's kind of how I started. I was studying via the Open University, and then I thought, right, we might as well just do 3 whole years of this, get through it quicker, because, it's tricky to do a part-time role or a full-time role as I had at the time. So you said about geology kind of being a soft science or considered a soft science, which kind of makes me think of Sheldon. Geology is not a real science, which I remember I was doing my degree at this point, and my wife and kids found that absolutely hilarious. I
venomously fight that one now, but
yeah, definitely. So I was wondering if you could just sort of tell us about the etches collection.
Yes, so just before going off to university, there's a local museum near me in Kimmeridge in Dorset, owned by a guy called Steve Etches, who has done a fascinating amount of fossil collecting. Now, I am not a paleontologist at all. I just am interested in it because it's local. So I decided to volunteer for a summer while I was a little bit bored, just to get out and talk to people about geology, really. And it was brilliant. I ended up helping them with some event planning. I ended up doing little talks on the beach with Steve Etches. Fortunately, only one of those. But it was absolutely fascinating seeing people engaging with it. And I think that's something I've carried forwards. Watching the public engage with geology is something I very much enjoy.
Excellent. Okay. So you kind of volunteered because it was close to where you were and as part of your local sort of area, then, essentially.
Yeah, I didn't actually. A lot of the time they were saying, "Oh, did you want a reference?" I actually already had my place. I just did it for fun. However, the experiences I got from it, a lot of it was very applicable to now what I do with like logistics and that sort of thing.
And what did you learn whilst you were there? Because I remember in a geology course there was a paleobiology as well, which I wasn't that keen on and the reason that was because you have to draw fossils after fossils, and if you can't
my drawing is awful.
Yes. See, now you can take a picture and just run it through some kind of AI sketch and just label it. It'd be so much faster, but that's what we had to do. But yeah, what kind of sort of skills did you learn there that you've carried forward?
So a lot of it was actually more logistics planning. Most of what I did in the time I was there is they had this fossil fun day coming up. So I did a lot of talking to local businesses, trying to get them to donate things for the Fossil Fun Day, organising contractors coming in. I've always quite enjoyed the logistics aspect, then ended up putting geology on top of that. I never professed to know about the fossils. I learned a lot while I was there, but I still can't say I know masses about them.
Yeah. I didn't expect you to say that, to be honest, in terms of the logistics and organising contractors.
No, it's not what I expected when I turned up volunteering at a museum, and it wasn't massive, but as someone who had just come fresh out of school, it was the most organising I'd ever done. Yeah,
I'd imagine that's a really, really good kind of setting you up for like what you say, with your role now and future roles, I'd imagine. So would you recommend other people and other potential sort of geology students to do the same?
100%. I would say if you've got some sort of local museum near you and you're a student looking to expand your skills, you don't quite know what you're going to get involved with, as evidenced by what I ended up doing. So you might end up just talking to the public, which is pretty fun anyway, but you never quite know what they're going to need, and it does expand your skill set quite a lot. Yeah.
Okay. So you were saying about you started at Birkbeck, so you've done your bachelor's and your master's there, and then, or did you go to do your master's at University of Portsmouth? Is that right?
So I started my bachelor's with Birkbeck, University of London.
Yeah.
Got a couple of years into it and then transferred it to Portsmouth and carried on with my bachelor's at Portsmouth and then did my master's there. So it was a bit of an awkward route of doing it.
So did you kind of start in the second year? Is that how?
Yes, so I did the starting part. Unfortunately, I overlapped slightly with having to retake part of a year thanks to Birkbeck.
Yeah.
But yeah, I started in second year at Portsmouth, and then unfortunately I was never going to do my master's, but I graduated my bachelor's in 2020, and it was not a good job market, so I decided to do my master's. Yeah,
I think many people do the same. When it's kind of, you might as well bolster your qualifications and experience, etc. While the job market's kind of a little bit slower. So, and the reason for you going from Birkbeck and transferring it to the University of Portsmouth was just you wanted to, speed up the process and become qualified, and then eventually gain a role at some point.
Yeah, exactly. So I'd done it so that I could work part-time, and I had other personal things going on at the time. So distance learning suited me perfectly at that time. But as soon as I could step it up, I just wanted to get out there and do things.
Yeah, sure. No, that's fine. So why did you stay at the University of Portsmouth to continue to, go on to your master's? Is it, I've never been there, so is it a good university? I think they specialise more in that area.
Yeah, so it was a fabulous uni for geology. I did geology undergrad and then went on to do an engineering geology master's. Yeah. They've got quite a huge engineering geology degree, so you can do it as a bachelor's. I obviously did a more broad version, but I'm really glad that I did stay on there because the teachers there were absolutely fantastic.
Yes. Okay. So why did you feel that? So I know you said about the job market. Do you think that the masters added more to yourself than just the timing of the job market?
I think it definitely boosted my confidence, and by the time I got into the role that I'm in now to do some ground investigation, the terms I'd actually heard of. If I'd just done the geology degree, I would have had no idea what an SPT test was, for example.
Yes. And again, that's, I've done a kind of general geology degree. So when I actually got my first job in engineering, I think, why are we logging like this? This is not right.
Yeah, the logging took a bit.
Yeah, it's very different. This is not the stuff I've been doing, is it? This is not kind of like, dating it and all the rest of it like we were doing and drawing the sketches. It's, so it's kind of very different. So would you say, going on to do your master's, would you advise others to do the same?
I think if you've got the flexibility to, yes. Yeah. If you want to get straight out there, fair enough. There's plenty of people in my office who haven't done their master's, but I'm really glad that I did personally. I also really enjoyed getting to specialise in something, and it informed me that I wanted to go towards engineering geology eventually, rather than the contamination aspect.
Sure. Okay. So, a slightly different subject, but in terms of when you're at university, you had a few sort of part-time roles. So how did you kind of balance your time and find the time to get everything done?
with difficulty. I was that person who lived in the library when I was free.
Okay.
I actually distinctly remember a friend at one point texting me asking where I was because she just assumed I would always be in the library, which was a bit unfortunate. But no,
fair enough.
It was a lot of, so during my part-time study, I was doing any sort of part-time job I could. I worked as a cleaner, I worked as in a shop, I worked in pubs, I did all sorts. When I first started off at Portsmouth, I did take a break from working at the same time as just to settle, because it had been very busy few years. But yeah, by the time I was doing masters, I was working again, and well, again, it was 2020, which wasn't the ideal time to work, but I was working in a pub, so it actually was quite perfect.
Yeah, I know what you mean. So, what was it ever sort of dampened down by it? So the part-time jobs, did it ever detract from your studying? Was there always enough time? Did you have to become, much more efficient and organised with your time?
Definitely had to become more efficient and also have very good understanding bosses at these workplaces. And it was one of those that if I started a part-time job and realised that, should we say, we weren't going to suit each other, then I would have to move on from that one, because I did want to put my studies first, and the job was a top-up.
Yes.
And as soon as I found employers that were good with that, those were the ones that I ended up sticking with.
So you just needed them to be more understanding with flexibility. You've got a deadline coming up. You've got 2 deadlines coming up in the same week, and it's all go.
And to not guilt trip you if they've got people that aren't working and they need to fill a gap. It's like, I'm really sorry, I can't take on more because I have got university as well.
Yes, exactly. You've got your future to be concerned with, and not just the current day-to-day activities.
Setting boundaries with a boss whilst being a student is quite a key thing, and I've saw some friends at university not be able to get that sort of relationship with a boss, and it did impact their studies. And fortunately, to some people, I know one person who even had to retake a module just due to that.
Yeah. So that must have been a good thing to be forced into a position to have to do. It's good for you for now, and again for your future, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%.
In terms of your current company you're working with, Delta Simmons, how's that going? How are you finding it there? What's going on?
I absolutely love it.
Yeah.
So obviously, I never intended to take geology, and then when I did, I never thought this is what I would be doing, and yet I absolutely love it. So I do quite a lot of contamination stuff, which I've had to learn a lot of that on the job, having done engineering geology.
Yes.
But we do some geotech as well here and there. So a lot of, obviously, I'm fairly early in my career, so a lot of what I do is a lot of site work, coming back, writing it up. But Delta Simmons, I must admit, they've been particularly good at letting you have a go at a bit of everything. They let you write the technical pieces. Obviously, then someone else will go and check them within an inch of their life. But they do let you get involved with everything, even though you're fairly new to the career.
Sure. So you say, which do you prefer? Is it the geotechnical side or the environmental side, or you kind of still figuring it out?
I prefer geotech. I do more of the geo-environmental at the moment, but I know that I want to go towards geotech.
And why do you prefer the geotechnical side?
I think it's like physics problems to me, and that just fascinates me. So my master's dissertation was all on landslides along the Jurassic Coast, and that I never wanted to stop it. If I could have thought I could do a PhD and carry on doing that and still get paid, I would have done it. But I just absolutely loved it. Yeah, so landslides and subsidence, very, very close to my heart.
Very close to your heart. So can you describe some of the projects that you've worked on over your time there with Delta Simmons?
Yes, so unfortunately, none involving landslides. But I've worked on a bit of all sorts. There's been a fabulous one that I've really appreciated being able to work on, because it was proper consulting, shall we say. That we had a client who had some active gas measures under a site. They wanted to know, was it still needed? So it's been an ongoing project the entire time I've been with Delta Simmons so far. And we've been drilling boreholes to check if there's what gases are there. We've been monitoring inside the buildings, switching measures off, carrying on monitoring inside the buildings for methane, things like that. And it's been a really interesting one to watch go from start to finish, and it's still not finished yet. But that sort of thing, I've quite enjoyed the consulting aspect, that you get to puzzle solve, that you get faced with this problem, and you've got to carry it all the way through to the end and to find some sort of solution, rather than just sort of run of the mill. What foundations do you need? That's fun, but I like the problems.
You like the problems, you like to solve the problems. And do you liaise with clients? You liaise with contractors, I presume, as well? So you kind of have a general sweep of the whole, I suppose.
So I get to get involved with a bit of all of it. I speak to the clients, I'm on site with the contractors, talking to them off site, I'm writing the reports, I'm talking to the planning agencies, corresponding with them as well. I kind of get to have a go at a bit of all of it. Very closely guided by my line manager, but they let you have a bit of everything.
Okay. And do you think you'll stay in consultancy long term? Because contracting's a little bit different. Do you think you're more of a consultant? I
think more consultant, but at the end of the day, I'm early in my career. Who knows?
Exactly. Take it day by day. But I mean, you seem like someone who would have some kind of broad plan for the future. Would I be right?
Yeah, I'm hoping to go towards chartership, which and I'm fairly early to be saying that, but I've got my spreadsheet. I'm already starting to plan it.
Well, I know some people. I think my first job, they've been working in the industry for about 20 years, and then eventually it says, right, I'm going to go through the chartership process now. Like, what did I do? And they have to go through everything, writing everything down. That's quite a painstaking process. If we don't keep up with it from the start, I think that's obviously the better way to do it.
Yeah, I mean, so obviously I haven't gotten chartered yet, so don't take this as the best advice on the planet. But what I have been doing is I went on the Geological Society website and found all the things that counted as CPD, put those into an Excel spreadsheet, and just every couple of months I go through and work out how many hours I've done to each thing. And I figured if I do that every couple of months, it only takes 10 minutes versus trying to do it in a couple of years' time.
So who kind of helped you get through your first year? Do you have any sort of particular mentors that had helped you get through any particular sort of parts of your role?
My line manager particularly, his name's David Josling. He probably won't listen to this. But one of those who has pushed me to absolute until I go, I cannot, no, this is too much. And then swoops in and helps when I need it. He's been very good at pushing me to my limits, seeing how far I can go, but not berating me if it does go wrong.
Not pushing you over.
Yes. Yeah. Just always getting to that edge. And consequently, I feel like it's really helped push me a lot quicker than I would have if someone had sort of gone, well, are you comfortable doing this? And I'd have had more time to doubt myself, whereas just going in and getting it done, you kind of get quite a buzz from it.
Yes, exactly. And if you've got someone to support and help and to push, I'm probably someone that needs someone to push me a little. I'd never really, left to my own device, I'd never get the best out of myself, really. Yeah. Because I do other things, But it's important, isn't it, to have a mentor, to have a good mentor, at the same time, somebody who's going to be patient and understanding, somebody who's been, you've done exactly what you've done, and to sort of help you out.
And it's got the experience that when you phone up and go, I've got a problem on this site, that they know how to fix it, or at least offer some solutions to help.
Yes, definitely. So are you finding that you're kind of, mentoring or helping to mentor some more junior staff?
Yes, so it's just starting to get to the point now that there's next batch of graduates coming in and start getting a phone call going, how do I do this one thing of groundwater monitoring? It's like, oh, I actually know the answer to that. And it's quite nice to suddenly realise that actually I do know some of these things and I can actually help the next people know.
No, it's nice, isn't it? Because you can get to pass on your knowledge and experience, but you can also kind of confirm your knowledge and experience by talking people through what they have to do. It kind of, it's a good way for you to cement things in your mind as well.
Oh, definitely.
So what was it like kind of shedding the graduate title? Was that a good moment?
Very exciting. I was kind of expecting to stay as a graduate for quite a while, as we all do. It was quite nerve-wracking because suddenly I was like, oh, now I haven't got the stabilisers on anymore. I haven't got that disclaimer in front of my name when if something goes wrong,
Yes.
I'm no longer the graduate.
Yes.
But I think it came at the right time. And yes, that things will still inevitably happen, but you've you've got someone back in the office to talk to when they do. Actually stepping from that, it felt like finally I was out of the studentville.
Okay.
Wasn't just a student just into work. Now I'm actually doing the job.
Yes, that's it. You're actually sort of an engineering geologist almost. Because some people keep the student, will keep the kind of junior title for quite a while. And it depends, I think, what company you work for. Some, I was speaking to someone the other day, and they've only had 2.5 years experience in the industry, but for some reason they're classed as a senior engineering geologist, which is quite unheard of. And this is kind of, so I don't think I could represent a person to another company and say they're a senior, because they would say, no, they're not. I think most is roughly this 5 year that everyone goes, talks about. Some are more like 8 year. You don't want titles too quick.
No, I wouldn't want to. Now I've shed the graduate title, happy to sit at this for a while until confidence has been built. And I've had enough project experience. So, big
definitely.
ones, small ones, complex ones, easy ones, to get a full idea of what's going on. I'm still facing sites that go, I've never had to do this before. Who do I call for this?
What are your kind of main responsibilities from a graduate role?
I've noticed the scale of projects have increased. So previously as a graduate, they'd give me jobs that were maybe 1 week, and I would, either if they were a longer job, I would be out with someone else. I've now got a 4-week job coming up that, although there'll be someone just down the road if there's a problem, suddenly I'm like, this is quite a large job.
So you also be writing a report for that as well? Do you just, I presume you do desk study in, everything throughout the project?
Yep. So we start at desk study, then that informs our investigation. We go off and do the investigation, then write it up. So for this one, I haven't actually started writing the desk study yet, but then I will be doing that, then doing this big 4-week site, and then writing it all up afterwards.
Can you just run us through the process? So let's say that maybe someone's still at university at the moment and they're wondering exactly where you start with the desk study and how you run through that to the completion, how that informs, the next phase, and then on to the report writing. I wonder if you could kind of run us through from the entire life cycle.
So actually the desk studies I really enjoy, because we at university did actually do one, but I wouldn't say it was quite on the scale of what we do now. So you apply for all your historical maps, you try and track your site over as far back as you can to work out what contaminants might be there, what has there been a quarry dug out and backfilled, what's it been backfilled with. We use companies that then provide all the magic data sets, so all the aquifer designations, has there been old landfills, a good example, are there extraction wells nearby? You're trying to get a full picture of everything that's happened to this site over history. So then when you're going to inform the next phase of what you're going to do, where in the 1950s there was an oil tank over there, so that's the bit I probably need to target.
Yes.
So obviously you then create your borehole plans and all that sort of thing around what you've managed to research and find out. And then once you've done that, hopefully that's also informed what contaminants you might find in those locations. You think that there's going to be some sort of void you might have found from that, where else you might need to investigate. Is that going to expand out into an area? There's one that I've got coming up that potentially, we don't know, could have a mine shaft in it. Or does that link to a working that goes further? I don't know that yet. So it's all these things. You've got to build that model in your head before you go out on site so that you know what you're going to investigate. Once you've investigated it, you pull all of that back to the office, all of your data, all of your samples that you've sent off to labs. That's what you're reporting on to present to the client. You should be proving or disproving your original ground model.
Okay. So in regards to once you've done your desk study, then your design, and then the site investigation of which methods as well. So whether it's be rotary, whether it be cable percussive, trial pits, etc. Carry that out. I imagine you'd have a budget. I imagine the clients would define a rough budget.
And budget is often not as big as you want it to be. So you have to prioritise exactly the highest points.
And is that a tricky thing to do? Because to define it all would be great to have like Swiss cheese approach, but of course that's not practical because clients have to pay at some point. So how do you get around if perhaps you're dealing with a client and they're just not appreciating how much they actually have to put into it to ensure that it's not going to cause a problem for them or the potential residents of whatever the land is?
I mean, I'll be honest, when it gets to that stage, that's often hands over to my boss at that point.
Okay.
I should imagine it would be something along the lines of explaining the benefits to this. And because it's a risk-based approach, you're trying to get them to de-risk their site. So if you can tell them how expensive it might be if it goes wrong, that might convince them why they should do a bit more investigation.
And it's kind of thought as a necessary evil for some people, not all. I think that's getting better. I've mentioned it a few times beforehand. But we all hear of these sites where it looks like a lovely field, and then they build on it, and then it voids throughout, and it costs, either costs them a lot of money or they make zero money, neither of which is ideal if you're in a business of trying to make some money.
Well, especially, I know I'm down in the south of the UK, so we've got lots of chalk, which has the potential, obviously, to have casts. That's one that we often have to raise.
Okay. So then you've designed the ground investigation, so you've completed the ground investigation also, so that's all went relatively well. Everyone's mostly turned up on time. There's not been too many issues. Hopefully it's not in the height of winter, there's too much rain and all the drilling rigs have been bogged down.
Hopefully no one put petrol on the diesel rig, that sort of thing.
Yeah, exactly, which does occasionally happen. Okay, so then you've got all your factual data from this now. So you've got your logs, you've got your SPT values, you've got everything you need. And then you take us to the report writing side. So I wonder if you could just take us through that.
So for that, you'll obviously lay out all of the information that you've got, and then you'll reevaluate the conceptual site model and your ground model that you had from your desk study. And it's not a case of trying to say that your previous one was wrong, but you're trying to make sure that everything is matching up to the data that you now have. So if you've got an anomaly of some SPTs that are really low, indicating some, should we say, squishy material that you weren't expecting, now you need to include that into your model and tell them that that area could be a risk area. For example, I know often when we find peat, that is a major red flag that if you weren't expecting peat, you know that can compress. Yeah. And if you're suddenly trying to report this, you might need to adjust your foundation solutions, for example. So that possibly getting ahead of myself there. But once you've got all of this information of your site model, you've then got to say, so from the geo-environmental perspective, you compare it to the GQRA things, which is making sure that it doesn't impact any human health issues. So if you've got high lead, is that going to be transported in the water, etc.?
Yes.
You want to make sure that any future site users of this site are not going to be impacted by the ground or the groundwater. So we create a nice little risk table for that, telling people where they might have issues. Will they need to remediate it or not? Can they just mitigate it by putting capping layers on top, that kind of thing. Then on the geotech side, we can do very preliminary sort of foundation solutions. Will they need pads? Is the ground too bad? Are they going to need to pile down through it and find something more solid underneath? But obviously that will also depend on whether we have design plans of what they're intending to build yet.
That's a great kind of run through for people listening as well. So on another note, so you mentioned about sort of starting the chartership towards being a geological society.
Yeah.
Can you sort of briefly explain what that means?
So a chartership is showing that you are established in your career. It's quite a lot of hoops to jump through. I've heard to not overestimate it and expect to possibly fail your first interview. So hopefully I don't, but I have been told about that one. Basically, with the Geological Society, it's then a extra bit of letters against your name that you can turn and say, I'm experienced in this. I have done lots of different types of projects. I value health and safety. And it's a show that you haven't just come out of uni and just bumbling along. I am quite wanting to aim towards it, mainly because it gives me another goal, to be fair. And I think it's a good checklist to make sure that you are continuing to learn and continuing to develop your skills. The CPD, which continued professional development if you're a student, that they require you to build, it means that you've got to do extra reading of this sort of thing. It means you've got to go to conferences and engage with the community. By doing all of those different things, it does really increase your knowledge base. And that's the main reason you go for it, because I definitely know some people who aren't chartered, who've got lots of experience, who will probably know far more than I ever will. So it's not an indication that you are the best. It's just more of a framework to push yourself forwards is how I'm viewing it.
Yes, but I can see that side from it. It kind of helps you keep on track as well and to not drift, as you mentioned it a moment ago. Yeah, so you're kind of going to pursue it for those reasons, and of course, it does show your seriousness and commitment to your studies in the area.
Because once you've got it as well, you've got to maintain it. So you have to continue that continue progression all of the time to keep that chartership.
Yeah. So what's? I'm not sure if you know the answer to this at the moment. So once you kind of gain your chartership, what does it take in order to keep it going? Then is that a certain amount of hours, a certain subject matters?
I cannot remember off the top of my head exactly how many hours it is. I know to start with, to apply for it, you need 90 hours per year, which sounded quite overwhelming. But when you actually realised all the things that can go into it, it's not too bad, especially early career when I'm still learning lots. I can see how later in your career those hours might get harder to fill. But I think there's even mentorship that can feed into that. That can feed into your hours as well.
Can you sort of break down exactly what you can do? So for the CPD, so I imagine can you watch a video, listen to a podcast, go to a meeting?
Yeah, so all of those kinds of things. They've got a fantastic diagram on the website, splitting it all off. You can outreach in schools counts. You can, if you're reading academic papers, if you're going to, I say a conference, because if you're going to different talks there where they're discussing new techniques, things like that, that will count. If you've got on-the-job learning, they require quite a lot of that to start with. So going to sites, learning new techniques, hands-on, that can, I must admit, I am yet to work out how I evidence that, other than saying that my colleague over here told me what to do, but that I will face that one when I come to it.
Yes, no, funny. And in terms of media, does media work for it?
Yes, so when I've done I did a radio interview the other day. Apparently that counts.
Wow.
Because they also include, you can't do all of your hours based off of it, but to do media outreach and try and sell geology to the masses, they include that as part of it. But obviously that can't take up all of your hours because that's not fully developing your career.
Okay, so you mentioned a radio interview, so I'm keen to know about that now. When was that? Who was it with? What was it related to? I imagine the area which we're discussing now, but you did let me know a little bit about that.
So the most recent one was about, they invited me on as the guest of the day on my local BBC radio segment, and they wanted to try and guess my job. As you might guess, they didn't succeed.
No.
I think the closest he got was that I worked outside sometimes. Bless him. But
wow.
yeah, they only had a minute, and let's be honest,
that's fair
any
enough.
kind of geo stuff is not where your mind first goes. But that was kind of why they invited me on, to get people thinking about different options, I think. They also went into my social media enjoyment of promoting geology online, which is where they found me for that.
Wow. Okay. So you've done others then, have you? So was this just like the first one?
Yes. No. This was the second one with the BBC. Because the first one was actually about fossil hunting along the Jurassic Coast, which, as I said, I am not a fossil hunting expert. Pretty sure there was someone more qualified than me to talk about that. However, talk about it I did.
Excellent. Now that's great. So you mentioned there about TikTok, essentially. So you've made a fair few TikTok videos now. I had a little bit earlier on today. You've got a couple of 100,000 likes. You've got about 5,000-6,000 followers. I think you are geo.sassy, if anyone wants to go and follow and look at your TikToks.
Yes. So, I mean, I actually started that since doing this career because I kept getting bored in hotel rooms, basically.
That's a great way to use your time.
Yeah, I mean, I'm very passionate about geology. I absolutely love it. And it was, to start with, a way of talking to some of my friends and family, showing them what I'm interested in. But then I quickly realised it was reaching other people that I hadn't quite intended. And I realised all in one go that actually this is where the young people are. And if you want to get people into geoscience, and we've got a massive decrease in how many people are going into geoscience in general, and it's like you see the graph and we're pretty much dropping off the end of enrolments. And I guess it's my one small piece that I've worked out that, hey, I might be able to help with that. I'm just one small person. If anyone else wants to get involved, there's plenty of room out there. But I realised that younger people were coming on and going, oh, what is that? And I had a picture of a crinoid fossil, which is like a little star sea lily. And people were fascinated, and they were telling me about, I don't even know these people, these were people broadly across the world, and they were telling me, oh, I found this on holiday, what's this? Oh, there's a whole job for this. And I know just off the back of what I've been doing, at least 3 people have gone and taken short geology courses, which to me is fantastic. That means that people are getting interested.
That is great. And from watching the videos, they're done very entertainingly. They're very good graphics and visuals, and you're very entertaining whilst you're doing them, humorous.
I suppose comedy.
And I suppose even if you see the crime, like you're saying, and it's kind of, this is from this time, then that opens up in a whole new world. Even if you say kind of limestone, this was, because there was a sea covering it previously, etc. Sure, that's enough to make some people think, really? There was a sea over here?
Yeah.
How did that happen? How was that possible?
And it's one of those things as well that before I did geology, I most certainly didn't realise the scale of landscapes that you were looking at. Again, growing up on the Jurassic Coast, I knew rocks were old. They were cool. I found ammonites. They were fascinating. But I didn't realise quite the scale of what you could see in these cliffs. You can see Milankovic cycles. That's a video I need to do. But this is what I end up like, oh, that's a good idea. I must do an informational one on that. But I get an enjoyment out of watching people engage with it and watching people find something interesting that they previously thought was a dull grey rock. And I think the more that you can get people out there looking at it, it's not just about rocks. We obviously know that geoscience as a whole, it's the future of green energy. We need mining. If we don't do mining, we don't get the resources to be able to build the nice car batteries and that kind of thing. Obviously, it's a huge multifaceted thing. And if we don't get people going into geology, there is going to be a massive skills deficit. So I guess it's just trying to sell it in a new light, show it that it's not all dusty rocks in an old library, that there's a bit of fun and excitement to it in the modern day as well.
Yeah, definitely. And you mentioned about sort of less people going into geology. I think some courses are being stopped at universities as well, or in A-level. Yeah, which is odd because it's fundamental really to humankind and our progression, essentially, whether it's mining or building and everything in between.
Well, yeah, I mean, my local school I approached because I knew they had a geology course, and I said, oh, do you want me to come in and talk about industry, that sort of thing? And they told me that actually just last year they've now discontinued geology, which was really sad because I know of at least a couple of people who've gone off to do earth science because they took that course. So if that option's now not there, how do people find it?
I don't understand how they would discontinue an A-level in geology, but keep some of the other subjects when they just don't seem to be as interesting. Maybe that's just our bias towards geology.
Probably bias.
But I mean, just to have rock samples is a good start. And, to understand the world around you, the earth around you as well. So it seems odd how it's kind of going that way. And like you say, if it keeps going that way, skill shortage at the moment is just going to get worse.
Yeah. And especially to me, being down in Dorset, to have so many... So in the Poole Bournemouth area, I've had a search. And if someone wants to tell me I'm wrong, please do. But I can't find anyone who does an A-level in the whole of Poole and Bournemouth for geology. There's a couple on the outskirts, but there's a huge, huge lack of those A-level courses. And I don't... Obviously, Dorset's fairly small, but we've not got a university that does geology either. So that's to me seems a bit of a hole.
Yeah, it's weird, isn't it? I don't understand why that's... I wonder what people's kind of perception of geology is, really. Maybe it's just they don't know, because I didn't know anything about it until I was at the Open University, and they said, I've done a general science course, and they're like, which one should I do now? Geology. That looks interesting. And you get a rock collection, fossil collection as well, and a hand lens, and thought, that seems absolutely brilliant. Yeah. And that's kind of what, just that choice. So I navigated towards that rather than all the others, because it seemed a lot more interesting. And then you think, is a potential job, you could go into mineral exploration, which which
Yeah.
is fascinating as well.
Lots of sparkly rocks.
Yeah, what's not interesting about that? I just don't get it, but somehow it's not. But I think, go on.
So I was just going to say, I think it's such a shame that it seems to be the science that people find by accident, and it's a shame that it's not taught. I know there's not a lot of room in the GCSE curriculum. I've had conversations with teachers about this, that they try and get a little bit in the geography, but there's just so much else that's already on the curriculum. They don't have time to teach it.
Yeah. Constraints of being a teacher and the funding, I suppose, from the government, because I'm sure it's less than what it was. So, in relation to your TikTok videos, do you post them anywhere else, or can some people just find you via that route?
I mainly do TikTok, but I post a lot of them across to Instagram as well. Be honest, I would love to post even more regularly than I do, but I do have a full-time job and it's quite busy.
What about YouTube Shorts? That seems like a great platform for you.
So I've been starting. I did create a YouTube account and I posted a few there, but I'm not quite sure how YouTube works fully, so I've not been brave enough.
Okay.
I think that's possibly an avenue I need to explore a bit more, which is just cross-posting the video that I've already done across to the YouTube Shorts. Exactly,
rather than so I think the YouTube Shorts of mine is 30 seconds or less.
Yeah.
So any of them, I mean, you can always edit it, but I've tried some editing myself to put up some of the sort of podcast videos, but it takes a long time.
It does.
To do those things.
To keep it engaging, I once got told to edit as if the person watching has like an attention problem.
Yeah.
Because people scroll off within 2 seconds. So that's why some of the videos have to be so short. And trying to convey a geological topic in 20 seconds can be very challenging. So you kind of have to trim out all the fat of the bits that you'd love to talk about and just hope someone asks a question and you can make another video about that bit.
Yeah. No, I know what you mean. So I'm interested, how long would it take you to do one of your average TikTok videos in terms of filming it, editing, because it
varies a lot. Unfortunately, the best video, the highest views, I wouldn't say it was my best video, but the highest views I ever got was a video that took me about 5 minutes to edit, 7 seconds to film. And of course, that got over 1 million views, which was really frustrating.
And which one was that? What was the title so people can go and search that one out and add some more views to it?
I think I called it Fossil-Induced Brain Malfunction. Mainly because I just got really excited because I found a bed of these crinoid fossils that I didn't expect to find. And my voice went very high-pitched, very excited, and I think that's probably why it hit.
Okay, and that's great. That's a great title as well. That's a kind of humorous. You want to see what that's about.
Yes.
I think maybe some... Sorry, go on.
I was going to say, I very much have learnt that if I go in as the serious, let's just talk about facts, the videos don't go anywhere. If you go in with a humorous tilt and a sprinkle of facts, that's what hits.
And I think that's maybe explains partly why some people would maybe not want to go into geology. They would feel that it would be a bit more boring. However, the way you're doing it is absolutely, it's really good. So it's brilliant. And it kind of dispels that.
I mean, I've done everything from, I turned up gas monitoring one day and there was ants all in the borehole, and TikTok works off of these sounds. So I had this little sound going, oh no, just as I was pulling off the borehole to show all these ants. Like it's done to be jokes. It's not necessarily done to be serious. Equally, I did another one that I tried to dress as different rocks, which was quite comical. Had a lot of fun with that one. So something like that will take a lot longer to obviously edit than 5 minutes. I think the most frustrating thing is when you edit one and you think this one's going to be good, because I've done a lot of research for this and I found some really interesting facts, and then it gets 200 views and you go,
Okay, so you mentioned doing a video dressing like rocks, so I'm really interested now in which rocks you dress that and how you've done that.
I got a thing of gneiss and I wore a stripy top that was like big bands of stripes. I did a mica schist, which has obviously got the mica minerals, so I wore a full-blown sequin thing. I did another one that was meant to be a zircon, which obviously has zoning within it, so I wore about 15 t-shirts to show the different layers of zoning. So it was inventive, should we say? I certainly enjoyed doing it, even if no one watched it.
I think I'm going to go watch that one now just to see it. So, and this is all done in a hotel room whilst you're working away from home.
Yeah, I mean, I've now branched into doing a lot of them at weekends as well, but I'll tend to film it and then not actually edit it until I'm sat in the hotel rooms. Just because it gives me something to do. Otherwise, the four walls of a Premier Inn look very similar.
They do, and it is very dull. And then you touched on a point which isn't as good. It's working away from home, trapped, and you either go out and have something to eat, but that doesn't last too long. Drink some beer, you can't do that every day.
But then doing things like this gives me a reason to go out and explore. So I had a job in Wales not too long back, and went, oh, actually, there's a cave system nearby, and it's still light, so I'll go there for an hour after work, film a TikTok, and then it just gave me an extra goal to get out and about. And then, hey, I'm going to tell people about rocks at the same time, which it's been quite a useful thing for me.
Great. So hopefully someone listening or watching might be inspired to go and do the same.
Yes.
So if they just need a mobile phone?
Yeah, literally just a mobile phone. I edit everything on the mobile phone. I don't have any extra gadgets, any extra
You edit it on a mobile phone?
Yeah.
That's interesting.
There's some fascinating apps out there. There's one called CapCut, for example, which you can slice them together. You can do green screen overlays. You can do anything you can picture, really. You can do on free apps. And I have not paid a penny on these apps.
Really?
Yeah.
That's interesting, because I've got a kind of software to try and edit, and it's amazing, but it's far beyond what I would need, and I have almost zero skill in that area. So I might actually need three options here. Because give me 100 just means I'm not going to get anywhere, because I'm just going to be so indecisive about it. I'm not going to kind of move forward with it. Okay, so what's kind of the future for the channel then?
Well, continue growing it, I suppose. I mean, I'm not one of those who's setting like targets of I want to get this many followers, because it's around work. So I'm going to go for a month not posting because I've had a busy job, and then I might have a week that I post 5. It's just how it's going to work. So for me, I suppose the more it can reach young people, that's the goal. If it's not hitting the right target audience, then I'm not really that fussed about it growing.
Yeah.
If I'm starting to get things like these radio interviews, that to me is brilliant, because that's giving me another platform to be able to go, hey, have you heard about rocks?
Yeah.
It's also given me the possibility to be able to go into schools and talk to younger people who might not have. So I did one to year 7s fairly recently, who had never even really heard of geology. They haven't even done geography at GCSE yet. So, and I mentioned Lulworth Cove and sort of said, has anyone seen the big sort of wavy bit in the cliff? Well, that's a fold, and bringing in some of that sort of thing. And then I could see some of them sort of, engaging a bit more. So has anyone ever been on the Eurotunnel? And then started to explain some of the engineering geology of that. And when people sort of see the real life examples, they get really animated. And to get in front of more people to do that, that's the goal, really.
That's a good one. And you say about folds, even when you kind of start a degree, the student think, how would rock fall? Like it's a very hard thing. So how would I just take my hand a long time? So even then, you start to kind of think about things differently straight away.
Yeah.
But so has it brought you any other opportunities? So you've been to schools, you've done a couple of radio interviews now. So has it brought you anything else? Anyone come to you for?
I've had some more unusual ones. I did get an offer to go on a quiz show, which was not geology at all, but was quite fun.
Interesting.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. I would ideally like to do a few more of those dance quiz shows. If I could do some, my ideal would be, like a little tiny section on the one show to go, hi guys, look at these rocks, to try and that sort of thing. Yeah. If I could do little tiny documentary type segments, that would be better than a quiz show. But,
Excellent. Well, I think you'll get there. I think that will happen. We keep doing the videos as you're doing them. I think they're really good. So anyone who's looking to check them out, do so. And just confirm the name of your channel, just so people can search it up.
Yeah, it's Geo-Sassy, and it's Sassy with an IE.
Sassy with an IE. And do you have a link on your LinkedIn profile, for instance?
I don't actually, but that is something I think I should go and do.
I think you should do that. I think you should add a link to your profile. Maybe you can put it in your description.
Yes.
And then anyone that sees can see it straight away. So I think you get a lot of click through.
Well, for a while I was quite embarrassed about it, so I didn't put it up on LinkedIn, and I was trying to keep the two worlds separate. And then I realised actually I'm just talking about geology in both worlds, so I might as well.
I think they're great, and I think there's always someone on LinkedIn that says, "Oh, this is not meant for LinkedIn," but they don't have to comment, and they can just scroll on by, can't they?
They can block me if they like. That's fine.
Exactly. Just move on. It takes more time to complain than it does to scroll on.
Exactly.
But no, I think they're great. I think what you're doing there is going to be really useful for the industry, and to get people interested in geology as well, especially at the younger level where it can kind of manifest from an interest into actually, I'm going to do that. I'm going to become, an engineering geologist or a mineral exploration geologist, whatever it may be. So I think it's great. No, that's really good. Well, that basically comes to the end of the podcast. So this will be something else that you can advertise as well.
This will be going on TikTok.
This will be going on TikTok. Excellent. Okay. Well, okay, that's absolutely fine. Right. Well, thanks very much for your time today, Saskia. It's been really interesting. I think we'll keep in touch, and I'll watch some more of your videos as well. So, and I'm happy to support you, as I can to my sort of LinkedIn connections further afield as well.
Thank you.
Thanks very much for your time. It's most appreciated.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Ground Investigation Podcast. If you have enjoyed this episode, then please support the show by leaving it a 5-star review wherever you download your podcasts. For more information on what was discussed in this episode, click the link in the show notes now.